Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Roster drama continues, especially on the side of 100 Thieves. They failed to qualify for the World Championship this year. Questions have been raised. What might they potentially consider doing? Rumour has it they are at least considering some sort of a roster change, with N4RRATE revealing accidentally, it seems, on stream last night that he's been in some conversation with the head guys over at 100T. N4RRATE, great player this season for Karmine Corp, was linked, I believe, to N4RG last season as well. Maybe 100T is his destination, but if this is the case, which player might he well replace? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Brand new MAT kind of logo and setup here going into, of course, their run to Ascension, which is coming soon. Just to quickly mention, it's going to be the Britama Arena in Jakarta, 5,000-seater arena for the VCT Ascension Pacific, which of course is coming up at the end of September. So they moved it to Jakarta, and pretty exciting to be fair for all involved. Talking of the EMEA one, this is how that is going so far. There was a bit of drama actually about this yesterday. So these are the group stages so far. They end in a couple of days' time. It's not over for anyone necessarily yet, but it's not looking so good for, let's say, Barca Esports, Barcelona Esports, whatever you want to say. They're currently 0-2, and there was a bit of drama. So Lucas Rojo, who's their coach, of course, says we're officially out of Ascension. See you tomorrow still. Now, that's actually not true. They're not out yet. It's not officially over. If they win their last couple of games, they can still make it into the top 2 and qualify to the playoffs. It's possible, like mathematically, it's quite unlikely now, but it's not impossible that they could do it, and they've still got to play, Apex, who are 2-1, which is obviously going to be a challenge in their final game, but, it's definitely possible. So Lucas jumped the gun a bit on this one, and he did clarify it later on, but it was pretty funny because this guy Weber from Heretic says 2023 Ascension, try and kick someone before it starts and implodes as a team, doesn't win a game. And then this year they actually, made a change before it started, doesn't win a game. Next year I reckon we break the trend of not trying to blow up the roster, he says, so obviously criticising his management of the team. And then he says, I'm sorry I hurt your ego, I'm sorry you lie, see you soon at VCT, don't worry. And then obviously pretty funny, right, see you soon at VCT. So Lucas is saying, oh yeah, I'm going to be back in the league, my team's going to be back in the league and all this stuff. And then this guy says, are you taking up a casting role or do you prefer the analyst desk? So saying, oh yeah, you're going to be at VCT all right, but not because you've actually, qualified as a coach or a player. So, you love a bit of Valorant drama, right? And let's talk about roster stuff though, because Dapper's talking about what potentially might be next for him, talking about running back at United. But we know a lot of teams are going to make changes. Chet made it clear the other day. We don't know how many, we don't know to what extent. Maybe a number of teams make one change, maybe a number of teams don't make any changes, but some teams absolutely go wild with it, which probably will happen. Likely it's going to be a mixture of the both. If you don't win the World Championship, you've got to consider what you're going to think about doing, and you may think your roster is set, but there's potentially always you can consider a way to improve. Whether it's worth going for, that's another question, right? Because let's say Sentinels, their roster of 5 works very well. Are there players out there that you could consider to try and improve the team? Sure, it's worth thinking about. But of course, if you are then deciding to make a change, you're risking blowing up the chemistry and the culture and the things that have been formed over the team over the last season, couple of seasons in some cases. This was a very interesting development though from Zeus here. So this potentially is the player, the duelist player that Sliggy was talking about when it comes down to, basically Sliggy said that Fnatic are interested in a tier 2 duelist that many other teams are interested in as well. And, Zeus seems to potentially be the guy here, or at least in that kind of conversation, right? Duelist currently for Eternal Fire, and there are rumours about his future. There were rumours yesterday from this Turkish source that this is like a done deal. Fnatic has signed with Zeus, and Fnatic's new entry is Zeus. This is like, locked in, it's locked. Basically, Durka's replacement on the roster is going to be this guy. But, shortly afterwards, after this appears on the Reddit, Fnatic Koho, their team director, Kojo, whatever it's pronounced as, he says, false, so not true. Now, obviously you've always got to wonder, to what extent is this false? As in, the leaker says they've signed him, as in it's a done deal. And that, I trust Kojo's word, is false. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not thinking about it, right? Like, it's not impossible that they are in conversations, that the contract is maybe presented. The contract may not be signed, and therefore he's correct that it's false. But he doesn't add any more context, right? So, I wouldn't be massively surprised if this rumor has some merit, that this individual is in conversations with Fnatic, or at least is on the radar of Fnatic to make this potential replacement for Durka. That is a rumor that is understandable. Whether he signs, that seems unlikely anyway, and Kojo said no, that's not true, he's not signed. Their new entry is not this guy yet, or I don't know. There's obviously been some discussion on whether this is true or not, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Also, a bit of interesting details from Noyan here going around on the Loud situation. We know that there was talk even the most recent season and what was going on with Les, whether they had enough money to pay for those guys, and there's been some talk about, obviously, like a few months ago, there was discussion that it was an expensive project, right, putting together this Brazilian roster as they were trying to do, and apparently the situation is quite delicate because both players' contracts are up by the end of 2025 and they can potentially look to, sell some of these assets onwards elsewhere. And there's now been talk about potentially Furia and MIBR looking to get Kawanzan. So, obviously those couple of players mentioned as Salak and Les. So there's a bit of debate right now on exactly how healthy this situation is with Loud. Like what roster they might field next season, if any at all, right? Do they have the funds to continue? I mean, they should do because, they're getting paid a lot of money to be in the partnership league effectively, right? They're getting all this revenue from the skin sales and, merchandising and obviously the partner contract itself. So I don't think that they're going to be going anywhere, but likely they, after being, the world champions in 22 and very competitive in 23, not so much in 24, that may change around again. But let's talk about some of the more juicy stuff in the Americas side. Durka, of course, is, if he doesn't go back to Fnatic, which he doesn't look like he will at this point, probably coming to the Americas would be top of mind for him potentially. Obviously, it's a big thing to do, but there could be teams that could be interested, and of course for champions, Durka tops the KD list, and of course he is currently a free agent as well. Couple of spreadsheets. Now, we know that Rocket Bullets, he's been through the drama over the last couple of days. We don't really know how accurate this type of stuff is. But I wanted just to share it, and then you guys can have your thoughts in the comment section below. Because, right now he's got Toys as a question mark over there on Loud. Obviously, Cloud9, we know what's going on. NRG, we've got Demon 1, 2 likely, and Crashy's potentially gone. He's still committed to this idea that Sassy is no longer going to be on Sentinel. So, that's pretty interesting that he's still committed to that. And then we still have Asuna as a question mark over here on 100T. Now, that is pretty interesting, as we'll see from Asuna in a second. But I did also want to mention this, so this is from VCT spreadsheet, another source that I just don't know how accurate this stuff is. But, I mean, look, let's just talk about the changes, right? He's put Sadak down to a likely on Loud rather than guaranteed. He also himself, this VCT spreadsheets guy, has Sassy down to a question mark, and he has Demon 1 down to just likely now, with Verno potentially considered to NRG, which just, as I said the other day, makes way too much sense, given that Bonkar is likely to come on as their new coach. Verno coming in as, a trial or a player from Oxygen just makes way too much sense to me to not be at least considered. We've now got Mitch potentially considered to be back to Cloud9. I don't know if any of this is true. I'm just going to mention it. But the 100T stuff is actually very interesting because Rocket Bullets previously had Asuna trialing with NRG, and Taniz from NRG was like, that is nowhere near true. And Asuna's like, all good, but why am I still a question mark on 100T? So, Asuna's kind of like, why am I still a question mark on 100T? I'm staying, obviously. And sure, maybe that's true. But also, the players don't always know, do they? This is the thing. Like, Asuna's spot on 100T may be, in contention, unless he's been told outright by the general manager, like, you're safe, don't worry about it. Like, we're making changes elsewhere, we're not going to make any changes at all. Which maybe he's been told and they're not going to do anything. But I think 100T should do something, to be honest. Like, their team wasn't good enough at the end of the year. And Asuna has frankly not been, that impactful consistently, I would say, over the last couple of years. So this is N4RRATE on stream yesterday, and of course we know that he was linked to NRG last off-season. He joined Carmine Corp this season to good effect at the start of the year, and on the left-hand side, this, I think, is a bit of a bug from Discord, really, because you guys can see that streamer mode is on, so you can't see the names of these people, but you can see Joseph Jang on 3 occasions, directly with him in another group chat, in a different group chat, and you can even, if you really wanted, like, go and zoom in on the pictures and try and figure out who these people are. But, I mean, like, this is what comes out on the stream yesterday. And if you guys aren't familiar with this Joseph Jang guy, he is the vice president of esports over at 100 Thieves. And I think it's pretty clear that at least this picture that he's got in his header here seems very similar to this picture. I mean, you can see 100 Thieves in the background, can't you? So it's pretty obvious what's going on. That there's been at least some conversation here between N4RRATE and between the vice president of esports over at 100T. So that is interesting to think about, the possibility there, especially because this isn't even just their coach necessarily, right? If it was a conversation with Zix, who's like their coach or whatever, then you might expect that to be, obviously that's interesting too. But when it's a conversation with the VP of esports, you know, you can argue that that might be contractual related stuff, like that could be an offer and a counter offer, whatever, right? Like at that kind of level. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below on this one, but it's pretty evident that N4RRATE has been in some conversation with 100 Thieves, which means a couple of things. If you buy this as being true, that N4RRATE is obviously considering potentially going there, as you might well do, but also that 100T are considering a change. I mean, unless they happen to just be boys, right? Unless Joseph Jang and N4RRATE, like they're just old friends or something and they're having a catch up, like assuming that's not true, 100T are at least considering some sort of change here. And, you know, if it is for N4RRATE, then what do you do? Because N4RRATE could potentially fit into Cryo's role, although I think from an outside perspective, getting rid of Cryo would seem like a very, very strange and probably unwise decision. Honestly, you could argue that maybe Asana's role could be up for threat at that point. Maybe N4RRATE comes in, Cryo and N4RRATE could maybe swap roles a little bit, and you know, then maybe Asana. I don't know. It's a very interesting one, but it doesn't seem like what we have seen so far is anywhere near like, you know, the end, shall we say, from what we're going to see from now to the end of this off-season period. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. As always, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.